I'd like to also say good evening to everyone. I'm deeply honored to have the opportunity to also view this film on Milarepa, which we have all been very much looking forward to. I wasn't expecting to say something this evening, but even so, I think I will today, this evening, take the opportunity of acting two roles. One on behalf of all of us, particularly those of us who know a little bit about Tibet and Buddhism, would like to deeply express our gratitude to His Eminence, Khandro Rinpoche, from all of us for having made this courageous attempt in bringing the Dharma in this modern world in this way. So thank you, Rinpoche. Then the second role is on behalf of Rinpoche and the team of Milarepa, welcoming everyone here in joining us all together in viewing what is probably one of the most marvelous biographies that is contained within the history of Tibetan Buddhism. I really doubt, with the accessibility of immense amount of material that is available on Tibet and Buddhism, especially in California, that there would be very many people who do not know much about Milarepa. Anyone who has in any direct or indirect way connected with Buddhism and Tibet will have heard about this extraordinary life of the great yogi of Tibet, Milarepa. And through the centuries of Tibetan Buddhism, many, many thousands of people have always been inspired by this life of this great saint, of this great yogi, great practitioner of meditation. Oftentimes, we find a way where spirituality, particularly such a profound teaching as Tibetan Buddhism, or Buddhism in general, becomes so profound and so very true, and yet almost becomes inaccessible to ordinary people like ourselves. And we begin to imagine and think that spirituality is for saints, for enlightened beings, that we can make feeble attempts in trying to learn how to meditate, but many of us lose the hope of trying to accomplish it in one lifetime at least. And in that way, Milarepa has always been a remarkable example for people like ourselves in knowing that Dharma, Buddhism particularly, isn't about being just a profound philosophy, but that it is as much to do about ordinary life. A remarkable example of Milarepa is about encountering human weaknesses, of human desire, of human aggression, of all the different deceptions that our human mind can encounter, and yet how it can actually be the greatest blessing of a human being. That without suffering, without adversities, without challenges, we would probably not wake up to our own inherent basic wisdom. However, the difference between wisdom and ignorance being is how you can make adverse circumstances your best of friends. And that example of how an ordinary person accepts the challenges, accepts one's own weaknesses, accepts one's own ignorances, and despite the fact can overcome within a lifetime to become one of the most remarkable figures of Tibetan history, of Tibetan Buddhism. I hope that with this media and the immense amount of compassion and wisdom of remarkable teachers, particularly of Khandro Rinpoche here, will provide a very easy, inspiring example through which people may have a direct experience of what Buddhism is, of what human life is, of all the adversaries that we all encounter, which in comparison to Milarepa's life is actually very little, very small. And yet how, if we do wake up to the courage that is intrinsic of one's own self, that we may all be inspired from this film, from the life story of Milarepa, in being able to really become a good human being of this world. So please enjoy the movie, and thank you.